Hello and welcome to the Progress Theory, where we discuss how to implement scientific principles for optimizing human performance. I am Dr. Phil Price, and on today's episode we're joined by adventure athlete and mountaineer Adri Brownlee. Adri is just back in the UK after successfully summiting Mt Everest, and she has now set her sights on summiting all 14 8,000 metre mountains in the world. If she achieves this in the time frame that she's set for herself, she will be the youngest person ever to achieve this by around 7 years. In this episode, Adri and I discuss her experiences on Mount Everest, the dangers of mountaineering, and how you can start your own mountaineering journey. As always, follow and subscribe to The Progress Theory on Instagram, YouTube, or wherever you download your podcasts. And while you're there, please check out all of our other content. Here is Adri Brownlee. Hi Adri, welcome to The Progress Theory.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. I'm really looking forward to all of the stories that I'm sure you're about to tell.
Yeah, there are quite a few.
So you've just got back. You've stopped quarantine, right? You were in quarantine since you've been back from Everest, but you're now out?
Yeah, so I had sort of 5 days at home to get my life sorted out, and now I'm free and going out every day as much as possible because I just don't like being inside.
Yeah, I can imagine having all that freedom being outside for so long and then all of a sudden being stuck in a house must feel really awful in comparison.
Yeah, no, it's horrible. It's just like, it's claustrophobic and awful, not fun.
Yeah. Well, I think we should start there. Tell us where you've been.
Yeah, so I was it all sort of started about 6 months ago, my traveling, and I went to Pakistan for a K2 winter expedition. I was there for about a month and a half, and then I flew straight to Nepal for about 2 months of relaxation, and then a month or two of climbing Everest. So yeah, that's been the recent travels.
Wow. So when you say relaxation, are you like chilling in Kathmandu, or it's the beginning part where you're going to like base camp and then you've got to stay in base camp for a while? Is that right? To like acclimatize before you then, start heading up the mountain?
Yeah, so those 2 months I was meant to go home. But because of like lockdown in the UK, I didn't know if I was going to be able to come out again. So I thought the best thing to do would just go straight to Nepal and sort of, just explore Kathmandu while I have the chance. And it was the most amazing 2 months of my life. Like every day was just like partying, like having fun, doing whatever. Like I had all my friends there as well. I met new people, which was amazing. And then I also got a chance to try out paragliding. So I did like a 15-day course in this little town called Pokhara, which is like outside Kathmandu, it was just like spectacular. And like paragliding has become my new obsession, which is a bit dangerous because it's expensive as well. And I've already got mountaineering, so my parents are like, please don't get into that.
Putting their pockets out with like sad faces on. Yeah, Kathmandu's lively, isn't it? Like my wife and I have been there when we did the Everest base camp. Finished the trek, came back and just went out, and it's really, really lively. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's incredible. Like there's the town Tamil, which is like the party town. And it's literally like, it's like being in central London. It's crazy. Like there's people walking around the streets, drinking, like all the pubs are blasting out their music. It's a really good vibe out there, but it's sort of like, it's like Marmite really. Like you either love it or you hate it. And I know quite a lot of people hate Kathmandu, but I just think it's awesome. Yeah.
I can't imagine it. I can't imagine hating Kathmandu. I know it can be a bit busy, especially through those streets, but it's so colourful.
Yeah, I know. It's
like
amazing.
You said, lively.
Yeah, and the culture as well. I was there for Holi Festival, and that was like the most incredible day of my life. Like just the colours, the people. Like it was meant to be sort of COVID safety, but that went out the window. You had people touching your face the whole time, and like it was just so much fun.
Well, apart from the fact that you love mountaineering, what are you doing out climbing Everest? There's a particular challenge, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, like it's been like my dream since I was, I don't know, 15 years old, I guess, when I sort of started getting into this properly. So yeah, I've just always wanted to climb Everest. And I know my dad did as well, which is a bit annoying because I wanted to climb with him, but that just didn't happen. But yeah, it's just always been something I've wanted to do. And, you know, now I've done it and it's a bit like, oh, what's next? But I mean, obviously I have my big mission to do. So,
do you want to explain what the big mission is?
Yeah, so my challenge is to climb all 14 8,000 meter peaks, and hopefully be the youngest to do so, because the current record is 30 years old, which is held by Ming David, who's like sort of Nimsdai's partner. He's an absolute legend. I was on K2 Winter with him and Everest. So I feel kind of bad trying to break his record, but it's got to be done by someone.
I'm sure he's happy. If there's someone he knows, that's a good friend that's going for it.
Yeah, so that's the plan. So I'll probably aim to do it in about 3 to 4 years, depending on how many I can fit in by the end of this year, really.
So it's COVID that's slowing down the challenge in a way, and the travel.
Yeah, and also just trying to find groups that are actually going to be on the mountain, and, you know, seasons where you don't particularly want to climb that mountain. So like, for example, in the winter, you don't really do any of the 8,000 meter peaks, but, you know, you can do Choi Yu if you have a good group of Sherpas and they're willing to fix the ropes for you. So it's just about managing that and trying to fit in as many as possible in this short time frame.
Yeah. And Choi Oyu, isn't that the 6th highest mountain in the world, but it's often seen as one of the easier 8,000 meter peaks. Is that right?
Yeah. So yeah, that's one of the easier ones. A few of them are relatively easier than Everest, and there are obviously ones that are harder than Everest too, like K2, Annapurna. So yeah, I'm excited to try those out.
Yeah, I'm sure I've seen like newspaper reports, or I think it was probably a YouTube video, knowing me, but that I think isn't it like one in 3 don't make it to the top of K2 and Annapurna? Like, they're really quite dangerous.
Yeah, I think it's like, well, for K2, it's like 1 in 4 people die on the mountain, which is like, I mean, yeah, scary figures. And when I was on the K2 Winter, it was definitely obvious why those figures were there. Like, I mean, like, obviously we had, I think it was 5 deaths on K2 Winter. And yeah, it was quite freaky, actually. Like, it sort of put things into perspective, like how easily these things happen. And they were all super experienced climbers, especially Sergi, the Spanish guy. Like, he's like the top climber in Spain. And, you know, it was just one simple mistake and he was gone. So yeah, they're scary statistics, but, you know, they're true and you got to respect them.
So when you say K2 Winter, you were there doing K2 Winter, weren't you? So did those 5 people pass away when you were there as well?
So the 3 guys, JP, Ali, and John Snorri, they were in a team together. They went for their summit push once we had left. So they went missing after. But the other 2, they both died while we were there. And we were actually, myself and Sandro, the cameraman for our team, we were at Advanced Base Camp, searching for Nimsdai's stuff that blew away from Camp 2. And the day after, exactly the same time, Sergi fell from Camp 1 all the way to ABC. So if we were there 24 hours later, we would have seen the whole thing, that would have been like awful. So yeah, it was quite scary that it was so close. And like, you see everything happen, like you see them carrying the body and like all these things. And yeah, it's not nice to see, but, you know, one of the key things about mountaineering is you have to block those out, or else, you know, you start doubting yourself, which I kind of did. You know, after those deaths, I was asked by NIMS if I wanted to go up further to sort of Camp 2, Camp 3. and I was perfectly capable of doing it, and I was really excited to. But after those deaths, I was just like, no way, I'm not doing that. Like, this is way too risky. Like, this is my first 8,000 meter experience, and I'm not going to go there.
Imagine your first 8,000 meter climb ends up being the most difficult 8,000 meter mountain of all.
I know.
So you were there in K2 for training for the Everest push, is that right?
Yeah. So it's just like the most extreme training I could do, basically.
Yeah.
And it was also nice to be a part of the team that I'm going to be doing most of my climbs with, and just getting to know them on like a more personal level. And, you know, they're like my closest friends now. Like, some of them I'd even call my family. Like, they're just such an incredible bunch of people. Like, they're so amazing and friendly and like up for a laugh. So that was really cool.
Yeah, it's a good reflection on the Nepalese people, the Sherpas. They're the most friendly people on earth, aren't they?
Yeah, they're amazing. Yeah.
How many of the 8,000 meter peaks have you done so far?
So Everest was the first one. And then I was supposed to do Lhotse after Everest, but that didn't happen because there was way too much snowfall on the Lhotse face.
Okay.
And like, there was avalanche risk, and for our Sherpas to trailblaze and take out the rope on their own would just be way too difficult. So we decided to call that one off, and, you know, we'd already done enough, you know, climbing Everest. It was a big achievement on its own. So
yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about the Lhotse face? Because just for anyone that's not familiar, it was a bit unfamiliar with mountaineering. That's a particularly key part of the climb for both Everest and Lhotse, right? And it's something that can change a lot, and it's incredibly risky, right?
Yeah, so the Lhotse face was, I mean, this year was much shorter than previous years from what I've heard. But it's basically like a sort of 70-degree face. And it takes about maybe 2 to 3 hours to climb. Well, to Camp 3 anyway, it takes 2 to 3 hours. And that it's not too difficult, you know, you just got to put one foot in front of the other, and you're sort of pulling yourself up with the Jumar. So it's not too bad. But then after Camp 3, the Lhotse face carries on, and that's like a 5-hour push. And that's pretty difficult. But I'd say like the most difficult part of all is the Khumbu Icefall, which is before the Lhotse face.
That might be what I was thinking of, the Khumbu Icefall.
So that's sort of the risky part, where you have to travel through at night, and, you know, it's always changing. And you can just, you know, you can hear the grumbles of the ice, like, in the night. It's not fun. And it's grueling. It's sort of, the first time we did it took us about 9 hours to get through. And it's just constant, you know, like up, down, pulling yourself up on like vertical walls with your Jumar. It requires a lot of concentration and a lot of fitness as well. Like, loads of people underestimate it and think, you know, it's going to be a breeze, but you have to be pretty fit to get through that. That was definitely the most difficult bit. And coming down was scary because after our summit push, it was really late in the season, which is when the Khumbu is the worst, and, you know, because it gets hotter during the days. And we were coming through at about 10 in the morning, which is already quite warm. You know, the sun's out, and like, you're just walking along these crevasses and like these like little thin bits of ice, like about this thick. And you just suddenly hear like a massive like grumble, like under the ice. And you're like, we need to get out of here. Like, we start running. It's scary, but, you know, you just got to get through it and not think about those things.
Is it the technical side which makes a mountain particularly difficult? Or is it a combination of the technical side, the altitude, the weather? So, like, why is the Khumbu Icefall so dangerous? Why is K2 seen as one of the most dangerous mountains out of all the 8,000 meter peaks?
Yeah, so like each sort of 8,000 has its own like difficulties. So like some might be the weather. So, you know, rapidly changing weather. So K2 is like this. You can never predict what the weather's going to be like, because it just changes like all the time, just because of where it's situated. and it's also incredibly steep. So there's some parts that are technical, like the bottleneck, which is, that's really difficult, especially at altitude. You're using your crampons on rock and it's, vertical. But yeah, it's the steepness and the changing weather they're dangerous. So that's what makes it difficult. And then with Everest, the dangerous part is the Khumbu Icefall. And it's also, it's not technical. It's just like, it's draining because it's so long, and mentally it's awful because you're just going up and down and you're like, it's never end, like, when is this going to end? And you think you've reached the end and it just goes down and up again. And you're like, bloody hell, when is this going to finish? But yeah, it just depends on the mountain, really. They each have their own sort of easy parts and difficult parts.
Certainly. I know I wanted to touch on this, but and a number of questions have come in from listeners that have focused on this area. But this is already dangerous. As soon as you reach the top, it's getting more and more dangerous. What's your mindset approach to all this? How do you just keep one foot in front of the other? Do you just shut everything out? I think people are very interested to see, what's stopping you going, nah, screw this, I'm getting back down.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, the main thing for me on summit day is just not thinking about how far away the summit is, because as soon as you think like that, you're just like, what the hell, I can't do this. Like, if someone said to you, you've got to get on the step machine for 10 hours, you're just going to be like, no way. But it's the same with Summit Push. You're basically on a step machine for 10 hours doing the same thing. So you just got to put it into small chunks and think, okay, like, I'm 200 meters from this point. Like, it's not too far, maybe a couple of hours, manageable. And then you get a break. So you have to have that sort of, that thinking, or else you're just you're going to give up, because it is a long day. And then you also have to think about the positives rather than the negatives. So a lot of people start thinking about, oh, my fingers are freezing, or like, it's so far away, or, there's a queue, blah, blah, blah. You just go in this negative cycle. But if you think about the positives, like, oh, like, I actually overtook this massive group of people, I must be going pretty fast, or, I'm only 10 meters away from the balcony, and this is pretty good progress. And then you sort of, you get that energy, that surge of energy, like, that positivity drives you. That's the most important thing on summit day. You can't doubt yourself, because you're just not going to make it. And one of our teammates started doing that. And, he turned around to Nims, he's like, I can't do this. Like, this is like, I can't. And we all knew that he was totally capable. And Nims just turned around, he's like, get up right now, get up that mountain. Like, I'm not having anyone quit on me. So he pretty much just, took him up and didn't let him give up. But, you just have to have that positive mentality.
It sounds like focusing on little small goals that have such a positive influence, and once you start adding them all up, it sort of blocks out all the negativity that could be generated, that you could focus on. And it must be great having... So Nims is... Sorry, it's Nimsdai Purja, isn't that right? Nimsdai Purja.
Yeah.
What was his... Because he's a world record holder, isn't he? And quite a famous author now.
Yeah, so he was the leader in our group. And, I mean, he's such an epic guy. He's done all these amazing achievements, and everyone looks up to him. So having him on the team as our sort of guide, it was incredible. And, he knows what he's doing, and you can tell that he knows what he's doing. And he makes sure that you know that as well. So if you do anything yourself, it's probably going to be wrong. But yeah, no, he's a great guy. And it's, an honor to be able to climb with him.
Mm. How did you get involved with his group? That's a really cool thing.
Yeah, I mean, so when my original plans for Everest got cancelled, that was like almost 2 years ago now, I phoned him up and I asked him, what are you doing? What are your plans? And he had an expedition going in October. So I sort of joined on to that because, I didn't want to wait another year for Everest. I trained my ass off to get to that point, and I was like, another year of this, like, no way. And then that also got cancelled. So he's phoned me up and he's like, you know what, why don't you join the K2 winter expedition and use it as a training expedition for Everest, and, you know, get to know the team. So I was like, of course, like, why not? So that's how I sort of got into it all. And then, like, he obviously saw potential in me. And, you know, one day he just came into my tent and he was like, you know, you should do the 14 8,000ers. Like, you can do it easily.
Wow.
And you'd be the youngest. And so I was like, okay, sure. Why not?
I've heard him speak on several podcasts, and he always comes across as so positive. So he has such a positive belief in himself, and he clearly doesn't just keep it to himself. He tries to impart that positivity to others to really help them achieve their goals.
Yeah, no, he's a great guy, and, you know, he knows how to get people up a mountain, basically. Like, he's great at it. And
so did you know him before you called him up?
I knew of him just because, you know, of like the mountaineering world. You know, if you're in climbing, you know who Nims is. And so I knew that he had a company that did guided expeditions. So I thought I'd call him up and hope for the best.
That is wicked. That's great advice for anyone that's actually looking to do something similar, wants to climb Everest or any of the other 8,000 meter peaks. What's next? Which one? Because you've got the big one out of the way. Which one do you think's next?
So next will be Manaslu in September, and hopefully I'll do that without oxygen. Just because you know, it's one of the easier ones, so it's a good one to sort of explore the no oxygen side to mountaineering on. And, you know, following Everest, I felt really good on Everest. And, you know, I think obviously I'll be a bit slower, but I do think I could do it without oxygen. So, yeah, I just want to give that a chance. And then if I raise enough funds in the time between now and September, I'll try to do Dhaulagiri as well after Manaslu. So sort of fly straight from Manaslu base camp to Dhaulagiri base camp and climb up that as well. But I need to get the funds first, so
yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
for sure.
Certainly. Are you leaving a particular mountain till last?
No, just whatever I can climb, I'll climb, kind of thing. Because obviously I want to do it as fast as I can. So
yeah. It's not like K2 was like, oh, that was an interesting experience while I was there. I'll leave that one till last, and it'll be a big ending. But really, it's just, you know, get me up those mountains.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, would you be able to explain in a little bit more detail as to the importance of oxygen? So, when you said I'm going to attempt Manaslu without oxygen, I was like, oh, that's really quite big. Like, why is oxygen, or achieving an 8,000 meter peak without oxygen, such a big deal?
Yeah, so, I mean, once you get above 8,000 meters, you're in the death zone. And it's called the death zone because, you know, you don't have the same pressure as you would at sea level. And there's, you know, less oxygen coming into your body. And, you know, your muscles and organs need oxygen to function. So you're slowly dying, really. So the purpose of the supplementary oxygen is to slow down that process pretty much. And it gives you that, you know, that extra energy. It keeps your muscles going, keeps the red blood cells moving around. And without it, it's just, you know, you're naturally letting your body die. And you're a lot more tired, you're a lot slower, and you're also a lot colder, which is one of the big issues, you know, frostbite. Because, you know, I could tell as soon as they were changing my oxygen tanks at the balcony, you know, they take it off and you start shivering. You're like, God, it's bloody cold. And then they put it back and, you know, change it all. And then slowly your body warms up again. So it's crazy how much of a difference it does make to your body. And lots of people die because, you know, they're waiting around and they're not on oxygen and they just freeze to death.
Wow, that's insane. Did you experience really bad queues on Everest?
No, not one queue at all, actually. It was pretty quiet. And I mean, it was just, there weren't that many people going for the summit at the same time this year. I mean, the weather windows were awful this year. There was sort of 3 chances to go, and they were all really short. And the first one was really early in the season, so not many people could go because there weren't enough oxygen tanks up there. So yeah, there weren't many people going for the summit when we were going, and we went quite early, so we were the first out of Camp 4. So we weren't stuck behind people. So yeah, I was pretty lucky actually.
Was base camp still busy? Just up the top, not so busy because people are, I don't know, finding it hard to judge when the weather window is?
Yeah, I mean, it was busy in terms of there were loads of tents everywhere, but there was just no one around. And because of COVID, you couldn't mingle with other base camps. So you had to stay in your own base camp and follow all the precautions. So we didn't get a chance to really talk to other groups or anything. It was really weird. Like, it was eerie almost. Like, you'd walk through base camp and it would just be like a couple of people here and there. But yeah, it wasn't like the usual bustling sort of town that it is. And I would love to go back. I mean, I will, because I need to do Lhotse, go back and see what it's like without COVID.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It would be really good to discuss what your training was like for these attempts, because the way you described the Khumbu Icefall and how it takes a lot of people off guard, you know, you need to be really quite physically fit for it. How did you physically prepare yourself for an 8,000 meter ascent?
Yeah, so most of my training was sort of VO2 max focus, so trying to increase that as much as possible. So I do a lot of cardio, and I'm not really into weight training, so that was more of a chore for me. But my usual day would consist of about, 1 to 2 hours of intense cardio. So maybe going on the step machine for an hour with a, 15 kg backpack, or running up and down the stairs in my apartment block with, the oxygen masks. Just doing those kind of things which are really tailored specifically to mountaineering. And the oxygen mask actually really helped, not with my fitness, but with the sort of mental side of, learning how to breathe with restricted oxygen. And that was, it was great. Like, I could tell that it helped me on the mountain, because when you wear the oxygen mask on an 8,000 meter peak, at first it just feels like a burden, really, because you're not getting that much oxygen in and it's just uncomfortable. Like, you have to really suck in the air. And so that really helped. And then I'd also go on the weekends, I go to Box Hill and, do trail running for a few hours. And then every day I'd do a bit of weight training, so target a specific area and, focus on that. But that was the hardest bit for me.
Okay, so it's long, steady state type of endurance training mixed in with movements that are going to be very similar to what you'll experience on the mountain. So sort of extended step ups, lunges, and then once you've got a bit more time, like the weekend, you go find the hills, if you know what I mean, and do your aerobic training there.
Yeah, and a lot of swimming as well, actually. Sort of in the last month, I did loads of swimming, because it's just so good for your breathing as well. And, learning how to get into a proper breathing pattern. And it's just a great exercise, like aerobic fitness wise. So yeah, that was fun. It's changed up a little bit.
How do you find the altitude? Because when we first met was when your dad got in contact with us at St Mary's, and we brought you and your dad in to have a go in the altitude chamber. And I remember both you and your dad were jogging at the height of roughly Everest Base Camp, which is about 5,300 meters. So clearly there was something there, maybe it's genetic, where you both were you could deal with low oxygen quite well.
Yeah, I mean, so the first, going from Camp 2 to Camp 3 was the first time I went above 7,000 meters, which is where, you really start to feel it. And well, I actually didn't feel it, ironically. I felt amazing out there. Like, I was dancing around with Mike Posner. And yeah, it was an incredible feeling. I felt super strong and super positive. Obviously it's harder to breathe. You walk about 5 steps and you're out of breath, but sort of no headaches, no illness, nothing like that. So it was all the expected, really, which is really lucky. So yeah, and on summit push as well, you know, you're on oxygen the whole time, so the breathing side of it isn't very difficult, because it almost feels like you're breathing normally. And then, so yeah, no, I was super lucky with the altitude, and, you know, hopefully, touch wood, my genetics are on my side when it comes to mountaineering, and it will stay like that throughout the mission. So
yeah, no, it's really, really quite impressive. You clearly sort of built for this, and it's great that you found like your passion so early on, and turning that passion into technically something that's gonna achieve a world record as the youngest person to ever summit all 8,000 meter peaks, and you'll break it by 7 years, so it's really quite impressive. What would your recommendations be for anyone that wants to get into mountaineering, especially at that level?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, you know, obviously start small and, you know, do some peaks, you know, in the UK, find out if you actually do really enjoy that kind of, you know, the sport, and then go from there, you know, try out something in the Alps, you know, do Mont Blanc, so those easier things, and then start working up technically to, you know, maybe the Matterhorn or something like that, which is, you know, testing other sides of mountaineering, because there are so many different avenues that you can go down. You know, you can do sort of alpine stuff, you can do more technical climbing, ice climbing, you know, whatever. There's so many different choices. So just finding out which one suits you best, and going from there. I mean, everyone can do mountaineering. You know, it's one of those sports that, you know, you don't have to be a pro, you don't have to be super fit. You can like pick and choose really, and choose the mountains that are good for you and that are manageable for you. So yeah, that's why I love mountaineering so much, because it's so like broad, and you don't have to do, you know, what everyone else does.
Yeah, definitely. For I guess for some people getting into mountaineering, the thing is difficult is money. Like you said earlier, that it's an expensive sport. What kind of tips would you have for someone that might be looking for sponsorship to try and help with their mountaineering dream?
Yeah, so to get sponsors, you have to have that story that makes you unique and also makes you exciting, so that people actually want to invest in you and they believe in you. And it's really, really difficult. I mean, I'm struggling right now, and, you know, my story might not be the most amazing, but there is a story there, you know, being the youngest to do this. And I've still, you know, I've got interest, but I haven't got financial support. And especially with COVID, as soon as you say like money, they hide away, and they're like, no way, I'll give you product, but no money. So yeah, you just got to get your story out there, and you got to really connect with the brand and tell them, you know, what you can do, what you can offer them, as a person, you know, doing, whether it's media or doing talks for them. You've got to make it really personal to them, or else they're just gonna be like, okay, whatever. And then also, I think the biggest thing is having personal contacts, because, you know, personal contacts you can communicate with and you can share your passion with them. Whereas, you know, just cold calling people and trying to tell them your story, they just don't connect with you, and they don't understand what it is really. So they don't want to give you money. So yeah, the best way is to find personal contacts, or a friend of a friend might know someone. That's the easiest way. I mean, getting product is simple, but getting money is it's a nightmare.
Yeah. So I guess that's something that takes practice, takes time around building your network, and finding, I don't want to say finding your own brand, but finding your own stance as to what makes you different. That's going to help you achieve something that no one else can achieve. I guess that's what would separate you from the rest, would you say? I mean, yeah. What you've described is, you I think it really makes you stand out. Like, you're going for a world record, and you're breaking that world record by like 7 years. And so if you are struggling to try and gain sponsors, it could be quite difficult for someone else. But I guess it's, if they can develop that brand about themselves and that story, that is only going to help them and put them in a better place to achieve that.
Yeah, and you also have to have like a bigger motive as well, so either women empowerment or sustainability, or, one of those broad topics. You have to be interested in that, and you have to be able to promote that as well, because loads of brands are, getting into that. So like at the moment, I'm trying to talk to North Face, and their whole thing for 2022 is female empowerment. So, I have to make sure that I really put the point across that I'm super excited about that and like really promoting that, which I am. So that's why I sort of picked them as, my main target. But that's really important as well, because you can't just be yourself anymore. You have to have a bigger purpose than just, my mission, my this, my that. They don't care about that.
I guess that's quite good, because that's something you clearly are passionate about as well. It isn't like, I love mountains, so I want to climb. I need to find something to attach to myself. You're very passionate about female empowerment anyway. So it's just great to see that, you've got two things you're really passionate about that you can mix together. Yeah,
exactly. Like it's so nice to be able to, promote something that I'm passionate about in my mountaineering, and be able to use my platform and my social media to do that. It's really exciting. So yeah, I'm looking forward to, gaining, more followers and creating my personal brand and being able to do like bigger things, like talks and like yourself doing podcasts and stuff like that.
Yeah, certainly. Well, if anyone wants to help contribute or help develop that network further, how can they contact you, or how can they help with sponsorship?
So I have a website, which is just adrianabrownlee.com. And on there you can find all my contact like information and stuff. So you can contact me through there, or, through any social media really, like Instagram or something like that. I mean, that's the new way to do it, isn't it? So I think email's a bit outdated now. So yeah, just any of those ways really.
Oh, cool. Yeah, if anyone that's listening wants to help contribute to that, or has anyone that they think they would be interested in helping Adri with her goals, please definitely get in touch. Just to finish off, let's finish off with some listener questions. So first one was from Kieran Moore. Do you think your challenge will be more mentally or physically challenging?
Yeah, so definitely more mentally challenging. You can train your physical side, and you can be the fittest person on that mountain, but it's your mind that's going to let you down first. And it's not something that you can train your mind, and there are different, courses you can do and all this stuff, but to a certain extent. And it's sort of, your mentality is to some degree something that you're born with almost. And, if you just don't have that drive and that passion, then you're not gonna get anywhere on the mountain. You've got to absolutely love what you're doing, or else, your mind's just going to be like, why are you doing this? Just stop. And then you're going to turn back. So yeah, it's definitely more of a mental thing than a physical.
Yeah, I can completely understand that one. The next one is kind of linked into what we've just been talking about regarding funding. It's from Harry Basin. How did you find funding at the start? But I think the interesting part of the question is here, like, actually, were you taken seriously as being so young? But it sounds like you being so young is the attractive part about your challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, up till now, I've been super lucky to have my parents, support me financially throughout, my expeditions. And after Everest was, the stop point, and they're like, hey, you have to do it yourself. So I've had to raise the funds for Manaslu all on my own, which has been really tough because I've never done this sort of thing before. So I didn't even know where to start. But yeah, I think like being young is a major part of my story, and it's something that I can also use in, you know, for these brands to reach to their younger generations, and, you know, put the point across out there that it doesn't really matter what age you are, you can do these things. So yeah, I think age is sort of, it helps. It's an age rather than, you know, something that people are afraid of, or yeah, I mean, I'm not too young, so hopefully they don't, you know, see me as like a young child who's not going to be able to do anything for their brand. But yeah, I mean, I haven't really I haven't felt that way so far, and hopefully I won't. Yeah. But yeah, you never know.
It hasn't been a limiting factor so far, so shouldn't be. And then the final one is from Sam Ross, who is actually a climber himself, and it's more about your equipment. Is your entire clothing sleep system synthetic?
Yeah, so I guess he's seen that I've been sponsored by Save the Duck, which is all about being animal cruelty free and not using sort of, you know, down in their materials. And I mean, I would love to be using all sort of plum tech, which is what they use instead of down. But, you know, you just can't. The tech isn't there. And for sleeping bags especially, like, you can't not use down at the moment. It's what's going to keep you the warmest. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. And I guess one day it will get there. And I'm sure, like, the likes of North Face and Rab are working on it. Because, I mean, nowadays it's all about being sort of vegan and animal cruelty free and being sustainable. So yeah, hopefully someday it will happen. But at the moment, no. Like, most of my clothing is, you know, from Rab and stuff, because Save the Duck don't make everything. But I have actually just got a down suit from them, which is super cool. So that's got absolutely no like goose down in it at all. So I'm really excited to wear that on Manaslu.
Yeah, I definitely check that out. That's at Save the Duck, is that right? On Instagram?
Yeah.
Cool, I'll definitely check that out. Brilliant. Well, Adri, thank you so much for coming on The Progress Theory. Everyone that's listening, please check out her website and check her out on Instagram as well, and you'll be able to see what happens next. Adri, thank you so much. That's brilliant. And I'm so jealous, and I just want to literally go back and see what my bank balance is looking like, to see if my wife and I can go back climbing anytime soon. But probably not, but yeah, I definitely miss the mountains. So thank you for all of those stories. That was brilliant.
No worries. Thank you for having me. It was great.
Cool. Thanks, Adri.